Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And good evening and welcome to the Reaver of Common Sense. We are making sense out of the senseless right here on SHR Media, conservative media done right. Tonight, we aren't just reading headlines. We're breaking down a full spectrum collapse of accountability across government, media, and activism. From a $30 million tax-funded security machine in Chicago to the $3 billion network driving the hashtag No Kings movement, the pattern is no longer hidden. Power is shifting, narratives are cracking, and the so-called gatekeepers are losing control in real time. We kick things off with a central elite mindset in Washington, where politicians like Adam Smith argue their paychecks are off limit while federal workers go without. Then we move straight into national security with the Swalwell Fang scandal as Kash Patel pushes to expose what's been buried for years. From there, we dissect the media itself as Ron DeSantis calls out the protection racket shielding Gavin Newsom before shifting to Chicago's $30 million armed hypocrisy, where leaders demand disarmament while surrounding themselves with force. We expanded to $3 billion No Kings machine and the foreign link money fueling it, followed by Hollywood's open contempt for working Americans through Jimmy Kimmel's attack on blue-collar cabinet officials. Then we zoom out to global stakes in the Arctic race for Greenland. Bring it back home with ICE agents confronting activists, theatrics at the airport, and expose the true imagery behind No Kings protests. Finally, we hit the hardest reality: protesters cheering American casualties, campaign finance questions surrounding AOC, legal pressures building on Letitia James again, the shutdown politics impacting TSA workers, and even internal fracture as Cory Booker admits his party is failing. Sorry about that. Tonight, it isn't just a rundown. It's a full map of how these stories connect. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. So buckle up. Tonight, we're clearing the lanes. We're destroying the mind layers of disinformation. And we're showing the world that the era of American hesitation is over. Hold on. If you want to support the mission directly, hit that join button below the stream to become a member of SHR Media. Do a YouTube membership or drop a super chat during the live broadcast. Your support is what keeps this microphone live and the truth flowing from here at SHR Media. And while you're at it, head over to shrmedia.com to grab the latest merch, because in a world gone mad, the best way to spread common sense is to wear it. All right, the nonsense ends here. Let's get into it. Well, first, let me pop up the video and set that up. That'll take a split second because our boss is too cheap to get us proper. Oops, it's already playing. PAs. I tell you, he's cheap. He's really cheap. But what are you gonna do? Hi. If you want to know exactly how the House of Privilege operates in Washington, look no further than Congressman Adam Smith. While thousands of TSA agents, Border Patrol officers, and federal staff are wondering how they're going to pay their rent this month during a shutdown, Smith is out here whining that taking away his salary would be an unfair leverage point. Think about the sheer unmitigated gall of that statement. A man who makes six figures on taxpayer dimes with pension and health care you can only dream of thinks it's unfair for him to feel the same pinch as the people he's supposed to be serving.
Would you support the idea that members of Congress are the ones that should not get paid if there's a government shutdown in the future?
Look, we are trying to resolve differences that people have. This notion that somehow Congress is separate from the American people and we're holding it up because we just don't know. Look, there's a lot of passion on this issue. You will agree with this. I saw the interview that you did just before this. People who want more enforcement. I got people in my district who are upset about what ICE agents are doing, and they want protection from that. We're not fighting over who gets the TV remote.
But no, I'm just saying that if there's going to be another, like, why should it be the TSA agents and those and the government workers that are making $45,000 a year? They go a month without a paycheck. That it matters to them.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, they should get paid. But also it's kind of written into the Constitution that you can't use the pay of representatives as a leverage point on how to get policy done.
The thing that I keep coming...
He thinks he's special. The Reaver reality is that Adam Smith has no problem using the forgotten man as leverage every single day. He's perfectly fine with TSA agents working for IOUs and federal families sitting in food pantries as long as it helps his party negotiate position on the border. But the moment you suggest that the experts in Congress, and I use that term expert very loosely, should have some skin in the game, suddenly it's cohesive tactics. It's the ultimate American last philosophy. Your paycheck is a political weapon, but his paycheck is a sacred right. This isn't just about a salary. It's about a total disconnect from the American worker. Again, when we go from coast to coast, people live and die by their ability to provide. Yet Adam Smith views himself as part of a protected class that should be insulated from the chaos he helps create. The reality is that if every member of Congress stopped getting paid the second a shutdown started, these policy priorities would be settled in 15 minutes. But as long as the elites are comfortable and they have every incentive to let the little people suffer for the sake of a narrative, we are drawing a line in the sand. You cannot claim to be a champion of the working class while you're shielded by a $174,000 salary safety net. That never fails. The nonsense stops the moment we realize that the people calling the shots aren't the ones feeling the heat. Adam Smith is showing you exactly who he is. A man who believes his comfort is essential while your livelihood is just leverage. We put America first, we put the workers first. And we tell the protected elite that the era of the free ride is over. This lever argument is a direct indictment of a political class that has lost its moral compass. Smith argues that paychecks is a negotiating mechanism that shouldn't be touched. But he has no problem using the safety of our airport and the stability of our borders as a mechanism to force his radical agenda. It is a house of double standards where the rules are rewritten the second a career politician might actually have to face a consequence. If the quote-unquote experts are so confident in their shutdown strategy, they should be the first ones to go without a direct deposit until the job is done. The reality of Smith's perspective is that it treats the American taxpayers like an endless ATM with no PIN required. He sits in a secure office protected by the very agents he refuses to pay and has the audacity to call a salary cut unfair. It proves that the controlled leadership in D.C. view themselves as the masters of the economy rather than its servants. They want to lecture you on paying your fair share while they ensure their own fair share is guaranteed regardless of how much damage they do to the country's infrastructure. We also have to look at the common sense solution that the elites are terrified of: no work, no pay. It's a concept every plumber, every truck driver, and every small business owner in Florida understands instinctively. If you don't produce results, you don't get the reward. But in the world of Adam Smith, failure is just another day at the office with full benefits. By shielding his own income while using the TSA as a human shield, he is admitting that he views the federal workforce as a disposable tool rather than a group of dedicated American citizens. We have to ask ourselves how much longer we're going to tolerate this essential elite mindset. The era of strategic patience with these spoiled bureaucrats is over. We need to put reality back into the halls of Congress. If you can't manage the basic functions of government, you don't deserve the perks of governing. We stand with the workers who are actually doing the heavy lifting. We stand with the families being used as pawns. And we leave the unfavorable leverage complaints to the people who are too scared to live by the same rules they oppose on everyone else. And that right there is the mindset. Protected elite, refusing to feel the consequences of their own decisions. Well, what happens when that protection extends beyond paychecks and straight into the national security? Let's talk about what's been buried for years and who's finally trying to bring it to light. I got 2 videos I got to get set up real quick. It'll just take me and this one, it's amazing. The hypocrisy that comes out of this guy's mouth. And we're going to get into it. Oh, are we going to get into it? It just takes me a second to get everything keyed up. And we don't need it on screen yet. Sorry, it takes me a few seconds in between to get everything up and running. All right. Now we're good to go. Now we're good. Now we're cooking with gas. Clearing out the swamp requires more than just a mop. It requires a spotlight. And FBI Director Kash Patel is about to turn it on one of the most compromised individuals in the history of the U.S. Congress. We are talking about Eric Swalwell, the California Democrat who spent years on the Intel Committee while allegedly maintaining an intricate and intimate relationship with a Chinese spy known as Fang Fang. He bang, bang, Fang Fang. For years, the D.C. establishment has kept the lid on the classified reports detailing this betrayal. But those days are over. Patel has directed agents to gather and redact these files for senior administration officials. And the experts in the media are already panicking because the truth is about to come out. The reality is that this isn't just about a lapse in judgment. It's about national security being traded for intimate favors. We know from intelligence reports that Christine Fang didn't just help Swalwell with fundraising. She allegedly placed an intern in his office and engaged in sexual acts that were documented by our own intelligence community. This is a man who was tasked with overseeing our nation's secrets while he was being compromised by a literal agent of the Chinese Communist Party. It is a house of betrayal that was allowed to stand for a decade because the controlled media and swamp dwellers in D.C. protected one of their own. Swalwell's response to this is as predictable as it is pathetic. He's out there claiming that President Trump is targeting him because he's scared. Scared of what, Eric? Scared of a guy who couldn't even spot a Chinese honey trap in his own backyard? No, the only person who is scared is the one currently running for governor of California who knows his past is finally catching up to him. This isn't about influencing an election. It's about accountability. If a Republican had been caught in bed with a Russian spy, the New York Times would have won 10 Pulitzer by now. But because it's a Democrat, they call it the release of these files highly unusual. And then you have Mr. Swalwell as he runs to the media and cries about it. But I'm also going to play a clip. I think I got him backwards. Hang on one second. Yes, I do got him backwards. Let's play this one because this one's Swalwell running out there to complain that they're targeting him and all that, and it's political, and you can't go after politicians.
So my ask right now of the men and women in the building behind me, working on behalf of the great people of California and our country is this. Always speak the truth, even when it's hard. Come forward if you see abuse. You will be protected. And I want you to know this. Democrats will be in the majority in about 9 months. And when we control the House of Representatives after the midterms, anyone on any level who has done wrong to you, who has pressured you to do something you know you should not do, they will be dragged by my colleagues into a hearing, and you will be protected.
I'm sorry, I mixed them up. This is him out there running his mouth, making the threat. It's okay when he threatens retribution, which he has done on X and in speeches and in interviews several times. This isn't just one clip. I'm not going to bore you with multiple clips about this guy. He has done this several times, threatening retribution, that if they get reelected, that they will go after Trump. It's okay when they do it, but when he has to stand for his misdeeds, because it's not a myth that this happened. It happened. Everybody knows this happened.
This new take that we've seen from Elise Stefanik and Donald Trump and even Scott Perry in his statement today, how could they possibly have searched a member of Congress's phone, or how could they have, gone to a former president's home? Or if they could do this to a former president, they could do this to anyone. They're kind of missing the point that they should do this to anyone if they have broken the law and there's probable cause. You're not above the law. You're not an elite. You're not untouchable. And so it's nice to see that the rule of law has returned.
But it's okay when they go after Trump. But when they turn the spotlight on him, they've been wanting all these files released on Trump. They wanted all these files released. Now that we're talking about releasing the file on Eric Swalwell's intimate relationship with Fang Fang, a Chinese spy, suddenly it's shocking. It's that can't be done. That's not fair. That's not right. They opened the door for this. They didn't just open the door. They knocked the door down, barged through, and mandated that all this stuff get released. We got to know. We got to know. Well, we need to know what he did, when he did it, what he knew, and what he may have exposed to a Chinese spy. We also need to get that list of congressmen and women that sexually harass and have paid out money with our money, not theirs, taxpayer money. That list needs to be exposed. Congress needs to expose that list. But what makes this move by Kash Patel so vital is that it breaks the cycle of protected elites. For too long, the FBI was used to bury the scandals of the left while fabricating collusion narratives against their enemies. By preparing these documents for public release, Patel is showing that the American First FBI is actually interested in the truth, not political optics. They are even discussing sending agents to China to interview. I don't know who they're going to interview over there. It talks about something, but if I remember right, Fang Fang killed her, or died several years ago. I was going to say something else and I just misspoke. But this is what real oversight looks like. Following the trail wherever it leads, even if it leads directly into a congressman's bedroom. The reality is a direct indictment of the experts who allowed Swalwell to remain on the Intel Committee for years after this was discovered. They knew, Nancy Pelosi knew, the leadership in D.C. decided that protecting a partisan foot soldier was more important than protecting the integrity of our classified information. It is the ultimate common sense lesson. When the system tells you there's nothing to see here, it is because there's ones holding the curtain shut. Swalwell floated conspiracy theories to distract from the truth, but he never once denied that these intel documents exist. And that's the thing. He's never denied any of this. And that's what you got to look at. There's no denial. There's distraction. There's pointing everywhere else. There's Trump this, Trump that, but never, yes, I did it. No, I didn't do it. At minimum, he should have been yanked from the Intel Committee for having a sexual relationship with a Chinese spy. That is called a conflict of interest. But yet, we did nothing, as we've done for years and years. Give me a second. And not putting up with idiots in the chat room. If you're going to troll, go do it somewhere else. If you're going to come here, and I want people to come here, I want both sides to come here, but have some respect. That's all I ask. You are coming into someone else's house. Be respectful. I will not put up with slanderous comments, and I try to stay out of the chat. I just happen to be looking at something else. I do not put up with anything that might be anywhere near slanderous that could affect the show. If you're going to run your mouth like that, you're going to get your ass booted. You're going to get your comments removed. It's plain and simple, people. Have some respect. I'm not here to put up with your bullshit. Plain and simple. You want to disagree, you can disagree. That's fine. I don't care about that. It's the other shit I will not put up with. Oh, it's just, have a little respect for yourself, people. And once you see how deep that protection goes, you start to understand something bigger. It's not just politicians covering for politicians. It's an entire system. So let's move from the swamp itself to the machine that keeps it running. I'm going to play the video for you first, and then we'll talk about it. This is DeSantis, and for someone that I keep hearing hates Trump,
Newsom was a Republican.
Should be against them. Sure is sticking up for him very nicely.
The president-elect or a president to be criticizing.
Is it appropriate for people in your industry to try to create division and to try to create narratives anytime these things happen? Now, you're not as interested in doing that because Newsom is a D. If Newsom was a Republican, you guys would go you would have him nailed to the wall for what they're doing over there. And I know we've dealt with it. We just assume in Florida, anytime something happens, it's going to be politicized by the media. So you guys sitting in judgment of Donald Trump, I mean, excuse me, I think your track record of politicizing these things is very, very bad.
Okay, last question. Newsom should resign and that the wildfires are all his fault. So do you agree with those comments?
I remember when we had the Surfside Tower collapse, I had people from the Washington Post trying to blame me for it immediately without having any facts or anything. Oh, he didn't declare a state of emergency. First of all, state of emergency doesn't mean you can't respond. It's all that. Excuse me?
Biden did it. I think that's what you said.
Well, but what I'm telling you is you guys are trying to make an issue of it when I have watched from this seat. In fact, when I got elected governor, I was meeting with some of the other Republican governors, and what they would say is, hey, if you have a natural disaster, just know media's coming at you, they're going to do it. It's not the same. That mayor of L.A., if that were a Republican mayor, I could only imagine what that would do. I mean, you know the fires are at high risk, and you try to go to Africa or wherever she was to go on some type of voyage. You should have been there preparing and doing that, and yet I don't see a lot of heat being directed in that thing. And so, you know, I'd like to see some balance on how this is done. You could criticize the president-elect, but I think you also have to hold these other people accountable, and I have not seen that.
People are getting tired of the media. People are getting tired of the one-sided media. How the hell did that happen? Sorry. People are just tired of it. And they're speaking up, and I'm glad politicians are finally stepping up and trying to hold the media accountable for their bullshit. When a reporter tried to set a trap by asking if it was inappropriate for Donald Trump to criticize Gavin Newsom's handling of the California wildfires, DeSantis didn't just dodge the question. He performed a live autopsy on the media's bias. He told them point blank that the only thing inappropriate was an industry that spends it every waking moment trying to create division and protect their favorite D-governors while sharpening the knives for anyone on the right. Now, the reality is that DeSantis hit the nail on the head regarding the Newsom protection racket. If Gavin Newsom were a Republican, the media wouldn't be asking about appropriateness. They'd be calling for impeachment over a total mismanagement of California's water and fire policies. But because he's their golden boy, the quote-unquote expert in the press galleries act like he's a victim of mean tweets. I guess they have not read the tweets that come from his account and his press account. They really need to take a look at some of those and the anti-gay and other disgusting comments that have come out of his post. Because if that was a Republican who said half the shit he does, he would have been ran out of office a long time ago. But they create this, he's a victim rather than a leader of the state in a self-inflicted crisis. DeSantis exposed the raw truth. The media didn't care about the fires. They care about the narrative. And the Newsom is their protected species. DeSantis didn't stop there. He called out the track record of an industry that sits in judgment of Donald Trump while being the primary source of politicization in this country. He reminded everyone of the Sun Surf tragedy, where the Washington Post tried to blame him for a building collapse before the dust had even settled. Yet they give Newsom a pass on years of failed forest management. It is the house of hypocrisy where the legacy media acts as if the unofficial PR firm for the radical left, bearing the failures of the D team while fabricating crisis for the R team. The reality of this exchange is a direct indictment of the controlled media role as the agitator-in-chief. DeSantis noted that Republican governors have to enter every national disaster knowing that the media isn't there to report the facts. They're there to nail you to the wall. He looked that reporter in the eye and told them that their track record is very, very bad. It is the kind of American first toughness we need to see more of leaders who refuse to accept the premise of a loaded question, instead turn the spotlight back on the people holding the microphone. We also have to look at the common sense perspective on the LA mayor and the California leadership. DeSantis noted that if the mayor of Los Angeles were a Republican, the media's reaction to the current chaos wouldn't be unrecognizable. They would be demanding federal intervention and nonstop accountability. Instead, we see a house of indifference where the press ignores the reality of thousands of acres burning and water management policies that leave citizens high and dry. The media is more interested in policing Trump's tone than Newsom's results, and DeSantis isn't letting them get away with it.
Listen to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon Radio Show. Live on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights. at 11 p.m. Eastern, 10 p.m. Central, and 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Rumble channel, SHR Media YouTube channel, X, Twitch, Spreaker, and wherever great conservative podcasts are found. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, guides you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Raised as a free-range child with dirt, stains, mud, and freedom, BZ broadcasts from North Idaho, comfortably surrounded by actual normal people. Jump into our plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent chat room on rumble.com. Click on live chat to join. Now, with 37% more umbrage and 19% more bulbosity than previous shows, featuring delicious Liberty additives for the best in late-night conservatarian talk radio. BZ reminds you that with great beard comes great responsibility. No chinchillas were harmed, embarrassed, fat-shamed, or the focus of any sarcasm whatsoever in the making of this ad.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? Then check out Seven Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with Seven Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com.
Hey, where do you go when you want real conversation and topics? That's right, you step to the edge. The Edge of Liberty is your home for talk radio the way it was meant to be. I'll be live every Monday and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on the SHR Media Network, and we're simulcast on KLRN Radio. We're building something different, Aaron. We just want you to be a part of it. I'll see you on the edge.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And welcome back to the Reaver of Common Sense. I am your host, Jersey Joe, and here to make sense out of the senseless. It's going to be one of those nights. It just... If you're coming into the chat and you want to talk, I'm not... If I see your comments, I'm not going to go off topics. I prepare my show. I do my research on what I'm talking about. If you want to talk about other things, you wait until I do it. Or if you would, go find somebody else that's talking to it. I'm not changing my show just because you came in and you want to try to be disruptive and ask asinine questions. And that machine has one job: to shield failure, rewrite reality, and protect its favorites. But nowhere is that hypocrisy more visible than when the same leaders preaching control are the ones hiding behind force. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson is surrounding himself with a little human wall, a security detail of 150 police officers that is bleeding the taxpayer dry at the tune of $30 million a year. That isn't just a budget line item. It's a middle finger to every law-abiding citizen in Chicago who is trying to survive in one of the most violent landscapes in America. While the mayor stands behind a parallax of 150 good guys with guns, he is simultaneously applauding the courts for stripping away your right to own the very tools his guards used to keep him breathing. The Reaver reality here is simple. If Brandon Johnson truly believed his own rhetoric about weapons of war being the problem, he'd be the first to disarm his detail. But he doesn't believe it. He knows exactly what we know, that a firearm in the hands of a trained professional is the only thing that stops a predator. He just thinks his life is worth $30 million of your money, while your life isn't worth the price of a standard capacity magazine. It's the same America Last playbook we've seen for decades, from Hillary Clinton's taxpayer-funded protection to Joe Biden's round-the-clock security. They live in a world of peace through strengths for themselves, while preaching peace through vulnerability for you. This $30 million fortress isn't just about safety. It's about a total collapse of social contract. In Chicago, the experts have decided that the public should accept tighter limits on self-defense, while the political class enjoys a private army. It's a house of hypocrisy that has been allowed to fester because the media refuses to call out the blatant guns for me, but not for these standards. When the elites tell you that you don't need an AR-15, look at the men standing behind them. They aren't carrying whistles and harsh language. They are carrying the exact tools of the trade that the radical left wants to ban from your home, whether it's in Florida, New York, anywhere. Democrats want it banned. Beyond the dollar signs, we have to look at the vacuum this creates in the streets. Every one of those 150 officers assigned to guard a single politician is an officer who isn't patrolling a transit line or responding to a 911 call in a neighborhood being torn apart by the very weapons of war the mayor claims to have banned. It is a dereliction of duty on a grand scale. While the citizens of Chicago are left to fend for themselves in gun-free zones that only exist for law-abiding, the mayor is playing king in a castle built of taxpayer dollar and Kevlar. This isn't public service. It's a taxpayer-funded hostage situation where the people pay for the protection they aren't allowed to have for themselves. We also have to address the long-term common sense consequences of an armed elite philosophy where the government decides it has a monopoly on force. It stops being a servant of the people and starts being a master. The founding fathers didn't write the Second Amendment so a politician could have the best security money could buy, while the rest of us are left with good luck and a dial tone. They wrote it because they knew that the ultimate check on tyranny is an armed and capable citizenry. By surrounding himself with 150 rifles while trying to ban yours, Mayor Johnson is admitting that he knows exactly how vital those firearms are. He just don't trust you with that same level of sovereignty. The nonsense stops when we realize that safety is a personal responsibility that no government can truly provide. No politician should be allowed to outsource to the tune of $30 million. We are a nation of laws. We are a nation of subjects. And right now, the city of Chicago is being treated like a fiefdom. And I thought the Democrats just did a protest of no kings, as one of their golden boy mayors is acting like a king. It's only no king to a politician they don't like. But when their own politicians act like kings, they absolutely ignore it. And because these simple-minded people that are out there that are easily swayed by slogans and jump because it's popular, or they think it's popular, is absolutely appalling to humanity. The mayor is so confident in the restrictive policies he praises. Let him walk the streets of Inglewood or the South Side with nothing but a press release and a smile. Until then, the Reaver reality remains. Any leader who demands you disarm while they are surrounded by a private army isn't a leader. They're a hypocrite who has lost the moral authority to govern. The message to every American from Florida to Illinois is clear. Your safety is an afterthought to the elites who use your tax money to buy their own peace of mind. We are watching the creation of a two-tiered justice system where the important people get a 150-man army and the rest of us get a lecture on gun safety from people who wouldn't know a safety from a slide release. This $30 million detail is a monument to the cowardness of a political class that is terrified of the very citizens they claim to serve. If you want to know what the radical left really thinks of the Second Amendment, don't listen to their speeches. Look at their security budget. We have to ask ourselves how much longer we are going to fund our own demise. Every time a pro-gun control politician steps behind a wall of armed guards, they are telling you that your life is a secondary concern. We are a nation of we the people, not we the protected. By demanding that we accept tighter limits while they enjoy total security, they are attempting to rewrite the American experience into a system of lords and peasants. The house of hypocrisy in Chicago must be dismantled, because as long as the elites are allowed to hide behind $30 million worth of firepower, they will never feel the urgency to fix the chaos they've unleashed on the rest of us. Because it's never just about policy. It's about power. Who has it, who funds it, and who gets protected by it. And when you follow the money, the story gets a whole lot bigger. And we pull back the curtain on a grassroots movement that is as organic as a plastic plant. The No Kings protest, the one currently clogging our streets and screaming for revolution, aren't just a collection of concerned citizens. We are looking at a massive, well-oiled machines of 500 different groups sitting on a staggering $3 billion in combined annual revenue. This isn't a protest. It's a corporate-funded insurrection. While they lecture you about equality in the working class, they are being bankrolled by a shadow network of nonprofits, NGOs that have more capital than some small nations. Leading the charge is the indivisible, the well-heeled Democrat advocacy arm fueled by the bottomless pockets of George Soros, acting as the leader coordinate for this flagship march in St. Paul. But if you look past the Soros-funded permits, the real common sense story is the infestation of radical socialist communist organizations embedding themselves like parasites in this movement. It has been found and identified a network of revolutionary funds by Neville Roy Singham, an American tech tycoon and an avowed communist who currently resides in China. For nearly a decade, Singham has been the bankroll for activist hubs like the People's Forum in New York and the Party of Socialism and Liberation. These aren't just protesters. They are professional agitators who openly promote revolutionary socialist politics and collaborate with groups like Code Pink, whose co-founder is literally married to the man funding the checkbook in Beijing. The reality of this revolution is a direct indictment of the controlled media that refuses to report on the red flags, both literal and figurative. From Minnesota to D.C., members of the Singham network were caught packing cars with bright red signs prepared at dream shops, calling for the end of kings and the start of the People's War. In Grand Rapids, the Freedom Road Socialist Organization even used an upside-down triangle symbol on Instagram, the very same mark Hamas uses to identify targets for attack. This isn't about peaceful assembly. It's about a socialist contingent using the cover of mainstream progressive marches to spread a message of destruction, all while the media tells you there's nothing to see here. This isn't just about money. It's about a total collapse of national sovereignty. In New York, the People's Forum acts as an organizing hub for Singham's network, even sending Americans to Cuba to defend the communist regime there. In Detroit and Denver, we see imagery referencing the Red Army Corps, Soviet symbolism, and even historic monsters like Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong. The Reaver reality is that these groups aren't interested in winning something new for the American worker. They are interested in dismantling the American experience and replacing it with the very system that has failed everyone they've been tried. They are using Mao's doctrine of people's war to radicalize border struggles from within. We also have to talk about the American First perspective on this kind of foreign-style subversion. Code Pink, a major player in this $3 billion web, is currently circulating graphics that support Venezuela's strongman, Nicolas Maduro. They're also the late Iranian Ayatollah Khamenei and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Think about that for a second. You have American-born organizers funded by a man living in China, supporting the very regimes that want to see this country burn, all while standing on the steps of the Minnesota State Capitol with Jane Fonda. This is a coordinated attempt to turn a day of protest into a long-term gains for a global communist movement that views the United States as a fascist state that needs to be disrupted. The nonsense stops when we realize this no kings narrative is a permanent stain on the integrity of modern activism. It reminds us that when the radical left talks about democracy, they really mean dominance paid for by the highest bidder. The main chapter of Party for Socialism and Liberation is even working with Democrat Socialists of America to form a united leftist contingent against capitalism and state violence. It is the ultimate irony, using the fruits of American capitalism and the protection of the state to build the power needed to tear them both down. They are telling you exactly who they are. They are here to organize and disrupt, and they have $3 billion worth of fuel in the tank to do it. The message to every American from coast to coast is clear. The revolution is being televised, but it's also being bought and paid for by people who hate your way of life. We are watching the execution of a doctrine that calls for revolutionary moments to embed themselves inside political struggles and radicalize them. Whether it's the Freedom Road Socialist Organization leading aggressive demonstrations against ICE, or Code Pink linking anti-Trump rallies to the interests of Iran and Cuba. The common thread is a refusal to put America first. This $3 billion network isn't interested in your common sense concerns. They are interested in their own revolutionary people's movement, and they're using you as the backdrop. We have to ask ourselves, how much longer are we going to allow foreign influenced tycoons, the ones the left bitches about, the ones the left are always complaining about? They are doing their bidding. And they're so blinded. They don't see that they are attacking America by the very people they hate. They're attacking America and complaining about billionaires while they're doing the bidding of these billionaires that are in other countries. Every time a socialist contingent marches under a pre-printed sign, they are telling you that your republic is an obstacle to their quote-unquote utopia. We are a nation of citizens, not subjects, and we refuse to be intimidated by a grassroots movement that has a $1 billion price tag and a direct line to Beijing. The era of protected agitators needs to end, and it starts by exposing the money trail. The House of Revolution is built on a foundation of dark money and communist ideology, and it's time we tear down the curtain and show the American people exactly who is pulling the strings and who they're actually chanting for. Oh, let me see. What is up next? I got about enough time to do about 5 more minutes of segments, maybe 6. Let me see what I got up next. Because I had a video where they were. Here it is. Let me see if I can find it now. There's a video and they were actually carrying the flag, the Iranian flag, not the freedom flag for Iran with the lion, the Islamic. These people that were out there in no kings. Ooh, some big booms going on in Iran again. Trying to see if I can find it. If I don't find it real quick, we'll move on. Because I know the attention span of humans nowadays, they can't wait a few seconds. And now I can't find it. All right. If you want to see the future of radical left has planned for this country, you don't need a crystal ball. You just need to look at the flags flying over the No King rallies this past weekend. What was marked as a pro-democracy event turned into a visual parade for every anti-American ideology currently festering in our streets. We aren't talking about stars and stripes here. We're talking about the communist hammer and sickle, trans activist banners, and most disturbingly, the flags of Hamas, Hezbollah being waved side by side. It was the house of horrors that perfectly represents the modern Democratic coalition, a chaotic blend of radical social engineering and flat-out support for foreign terrorist organization. The reality is that they aren't just fringe elements. This is where the energy of the left actually lives. When you see weirdo boomers standing next to masked agitators waving the flag of Islamic regime of Iran, you're seeing the total collapse of the old Democratic Guard. They traded common sense for a suicide pact with groups that despise everything this country stands for. It is the ultimate irony. People who claim to oppose oppression are marching under the banner of regimes that destroyed women's rights and throw gay people off buildings in an Islamic caliphate. They're showing you exactly who they are, and it's time we started believing them. The reality of these rallies is a direct indictment of the controlled media that refuses to show you the wide shots. They'll zoom in on a single grandmother with a peace sign, but they'll ignore the sea of red and black flags and the terrorist iconograph that dominate the flagship marches. The media wants to sanitize this revolution for the suburbs, but they can't hide the fact that the No Kings movement is being driven by people who view the American flag as a symbol of hate and the Hamas flag as a symbol of liberation. It is a dereliction of journalistic duty that allows this radical rot to spread under the guise of activism. This isn't just about free speech. This is a warning for every American who thinks this won't reach their front door. When you allow people to openly celebrate groups like Hezbollah on the streets of St. Paul or D.C., you are inviting that chaos into the heart of our republic. The American first perspective is clear. A nation that tolerates the celebration of its own destruction is a nation that has lost its will to survive. We are watching a coordinated attempt to radicalize the American public by embedding these terrorist-aligned factions inside broader political movements, exactly as the Maoist People War Doctrine suggests. We also have to talk about the common sense hypocrisy of the trans contingent marching alongside the caliphate crowd. It's a level of cognitive dissonance that would be funny if it weren't so dangerous. You have activists demanding equality and inclusion while standing shoulder to shoulder with people who support the most exclusionary, brutal regime on the planet. It proves that this isn't about rights. It's about the destruction of the current system. They don't care who they have to get in bed with to tear down the foundations of this country, as long as the American king they've invented in their minds is defeated. The silence from the Democrat leadership on these flags is a permanent stain on their party. Where are they condemning this? Where are the experts who are usually so quick to label every conservative gathering as a threat to democracy? They are silent because they need the energy of these radicals to stay in power. They become a house of hostages to the very monster they helped create. By refusing to distance themselves from the hammer and sickle, an Iranian regime flag, they are signaling that they are perfectly comfortable with a unified leftist contingent that wants to dismantle capitalism and sovereignty. This is the American last agenda in its most visual form. While our veterans are struggling and our borders, well, they're secure now, these No King protesters have focused on domestic disruption and foreign glorification. They aren't interested in making America better. They're interested in making it unrecognizable. The nonsense stops the moment we call it what it is: a coordinated $3 billion effort to mainstream anti-American extremism. We are drawing a line in the sand. We are saying that if you fly the flag of terrorist organizations, you aren't a protester. You are adversary of the American experience. Finally, we have to ask ourselves, how much longer are we going to pretend this is normal? The era of leading from behind and the strategic patience with this radical is over. We need to put the Reaver reality back into the public discord. You cannot love America while waving flags of those who want to see it burn. The House of Revolution is showing its true colors, and they are the colors of our enemies. We're going to keep calling them out, keep showing the flags they want to hide, and keep putting America first until the weirdo boomers and their terrorist-loving allies are sent back to the fringe where they belong. Tonight, we connected the dots from start to finish. Well, before we get into that, I want to thank everybody that's watching, listening, everyone that's been in the chat room, whether you love me or hate me. And I really want to thank the moderators. Thank you very much for being here tonight. I appreciate everyone. Even I don't always call it out. I have a tendency to forget about that, and I apologize. I do appreciate you all. But from the essential elite shielding their own paychecks to the Swellwell's Fang scandal being dragged back into the light to the media protection racket exposed in real time, we saw Chicago's $30 million security hypocrisy, the $3 billion No Kings machine. We've seen Hollywood class mocking the very people who keep this country running. We tackled the global stakes in Greenland. Well, I didn't get to that one. The reality on the ground with ICE at our airport and the flags and messaging revealed exactly what today's activist movement really represents. And then we hit the deeper fractures. And I didn't get to this one. I might move it to Friday, but protesters cheering American casualties. Serious questions about campaign money and accountability. Legal pressures building on powerful figures. Shutdown politics hitting working Americans, and even voices inside the system admitting failure. This isn't isolated chaos. This is a pattern. And once you see the pattern, you understand exactly what's been happening. The Reaver reality is simple. The system only works when the people inside are held accountable. And that accountability is starting to break through. We are not just watching headlines anymore. We're watching the narrative lose control. Common sense isn't a slogan. It's the reset button. And the more people start pressing it, the faster this whole thing changes. As we wrap up here on SHR Media, remember, the nonsense only stops when you decide to stop listening to the expert and start trusting your own eyes. They want you divided, they want you disarmed, and they want you silent. But tonight we've shown that the American First spirit is alive, and well, from Arctic Circle to the south side of Chicago. Before we sign off, a huge thank you to our YouTube members and everyone that was in the chat tonight. You are the fuel in this engine. You keep us independent, and you keep us loud, and you keep the truth flowing. If you haven't yet, head over to shrmedia.com and grab some gear. Wear your common sense like a badge of honor. Before we head out, here is where you can catch the rest of the HR Media family. Edge of Liberty with Sackhead Sean every Mondays and Wednesday. That's right. 1 hour for now, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon with BZ every Tuesdays and Thursdays, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Beer and Bullstein with Lyle Armstrong every Friday and Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Mission Ready Men with Big E Jackson every Tuesday and Thursday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. Reaver of Common Sense with me, Jersey Joe, every Monday and Friday, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for spending part of the evening with us. I'm Jersey Joe. This has been the Reaver of Common Sense. And as always, where truth lives and the nonsense dies screaming. Good night, everybody.